there's all these moments sometimes with like younger brown people or people who grew up only in California when they'll like talk, they'll be like, this microaggression happened and that microaggression. I'm like, bro, you had America Light. Okay.
This episode is brought to you by Barefoot Dreams. What's up, guys? You know, I got a comfy studio. I sit here. I swim in the comfiest fabric I've ever felt. It's called Cozy Chic fabric. Am I swimming in it? Maybe not. I'm not going in pools, but it feels like I'm swimming in a cloud of comfort because they made something called Cozy Chic fabric. And now my guests get to be comfortable on my couch. I get to be comfortable right here. And because they're a part of the season, you can go to barefootdreams.com, put in the promo code POPUP15 for 15% off your first purchase. And besides that, we're going to get right into the episode because, man, I do comedy, I host, I get to meet people. When I meet people I genuinely laugh at, look, you get jaded doing stand-up. You really do. You see stand-up comedy, you like, first of all, a lot of times we just think like, I wish I could be like that. Like, you get in your head and you get like jealous. Then you see people like, that guy's just really funny and I like him and I want to be friends with him. And that's what this next guest is. I just met this guy at a show. He did our show, our new show. Immediately he's in the pod studio. Put your hands together for Janesh. Rahlan, everybody.
Hell yeah. What's up, y'all? Dude, so I didn't know you had like a sponsorship with these people. I was going to ask you, like, these pillows are super comfortable.
Keep going, dude.
I like it. I like it. I was like, I'm sitting on this. This is nice. I was gonna ask you later and just like bring one home to my wife at some point, and cause like that's easy points, dude.
You know what, man? We're nearing the end of the run with them, so like I'm gonna give you one to end this episode.
You don't have to give me.
No, because you should. That's good. I want to give this to I want people to give this to their family and friends.
It's so sick. I was like, this whole setup is so comfortable.
Yeah,
and it's rare, man. So here's what I'll say. We go to so many comedy club green rooms.
Yeah.
And most of them you're just like, what is this place? And then every now and then there will be like a comedy club that's like women owned or women managed. And you're like, this is so comfortable and nice. And similarly with like podcasts, whenever you sit in like a space like this, you're like, dude, this is like the most comfortable like man's touch.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like,
thank you.
This is domestic in a good way.
Thank you. I think that's where I'm at in my life. Like I'm like domestically there. Like I could get the lawn done. I'll cook, I'll clean, you know?
Yeah. Well, you're a father, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
You have to be.
Yeah, that's a different ball game level of responsibility.
Well, yeah, but you're married up and you're in show business.
Yes.
How domesticated are you?
I'm pretty domestic, I will say now. Yeah, it took a while. The showbiz part kind of like tugs the other way always.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like we're in such like a Peter Panny job. And then also there's nights where it's like, okay, I'm out to like 1, 2, whatever, hanging or performing, whatever it may be. And it's like, it's part of the job though.
Yeah.
And explaining that. But then when it's like, I like having a clean home. I like having like nice sheets. Like, dude, this candle, great touch. I used to not be a believer in the bougie candle game. And then my wife started bringing more bougie candles. I was like, I like how our home smells and feels.
This is also our Barefoot Dreams. They came in and they decked out this. They made me more domestic.
The comfort
the sponsor did.
is Barefoot Dreams.
They hooked it up here,
dude.
But then my wife hooks it up at home. So what we're saying, and what I'm saying sexistly maybe, is like women have made me better, comfier, more domestic.
Yeah, hell yeah,
in a good way.
It's made me appreciate a home.
You have really well groomed beard too. Is that the wife or is that you?
No, this is me.
You're shaving the cheeks like
oh, dude,
every other day.
I keep it clean. The neck, it's important.
Very trimmed, which is not always the case.
You got to, man.
Yeah.
We're in a business where like this is what comics drive me crazy sometimes. Like it doesn't matter, dude. I'm gonna dress however. I'll wear shorts on stage. Dude, I was like, yo, your presentation's part of it.
Adon never wears shorts.
Yeah.
That's what they said in The Sopranos about shorts. I never wear shorts.
You never wear shorts?
Never. Only if I'm swimming.
Even off stage, no shorts?
I'm not a fan.
You're walking, it's 100+ degrees. You wouldn't.
We're in a heat wave right now. I wore these today. I was out before.
You wore black pants. You were like, I will attract more heat.
And it was killing me. I was like, my legs were sweating.
Okay, wait. So tell me this. We were talking before this. You said you used to live in Italy at one point.
Yes, I did for a hot minute.
For how long were you there? Like 6 months?
6 months.
What time of the year?
It was winter to spring.
Okay, so you didn't need shorts.
Didn't need shorts. And I learned there, because my family's from Italy, but Italian-American East Coast, I learned there the grooming of men that I kind of, since I've lived there, I've kind of wanted to be that way.
Yeah.
Which is why I was insecure today. Like, I always wear suits and blazers for interviews, but we're in the middle
Which
of
you look great, man.
Thank you.
The
Appreciate that.
suits and blazers, such a
It's
good
my
look.
look, but we're in the middle of a heat wave. I've been sweating all day, so I lost the blazer at the buzzer, and then I'm really kind of glad that you, like, without knowing, you matched my metro level of, like, let's sweat but also be classy.
Yeah, we are kind of at the same energy right now of like short sleeve button down, black jeans and white shoes. We're dressed like mannequins.
Horse track. Yeah. We're like at the Macy's Labor Day sale mannequins right now.
But we're better at the Macy's.
All right, fine. Bloomingdale's. We're Bloomies.
I'll take that.
Nice.
I'll take
But
that.
yeah, man, I learned the culture there. And this is so interesting. I talk about culture a lot on this show. I love where people are from. We're going to get into your story because it does shape, no matter like what you think about stereotypes or where people come from, when you live somewhere else, you take in the lifestyle. It becomes a part of who you are forever, I think, if you have a certain amount of time somewhere. How old were you? So you were born in India.
Born in India.
When did you leave?
I was 6.
So that's why you don't have an accent.
Yeah.
Right?
6 in the late 90s, dude. So this is not like when like representation's a thing. This is what, like, there's all these moments sometimes with like younger brown people or people who grew up only in California, when they'll like talk, they'll be like, this microaggression happened and that microaggression. I'm like, bro, you had America Light. Okay. Like if you grew up, like all the Indian people grew up in the Valley of LA and they're like, my experience, I was like, the Valley of LA is very different than most of this country. Yeah. And so whenever people complain about their interactions, I was like, you got to realize, like, there's people who come from, like, a malicious intent of, like, they asked you this question or said this thing and it was bad. But for the most part, overwhelming majority, I've lived in so many areas where I was, like, the only Indian person. And most of the questions I got while, like, ignorant came from a lack of exposure.
Right.
So much of this is just like, we haven't met another person. So it's like, even, you know, just our interaction right now, like you were like, this is why you don't have an accent because you came here earlier, right? I think that's a normal question. Like, that's a reasonable thing to ask. I think some people would be like, I can't believe you asked that shit. It's like, but it's like, yeah, dude, how would Paul know? Like, that's...
I'm so inquisitive too, and being an interviewer has made me that way, but then comedy makes me not have as much of a line when it comes to race or culture. I'm like, what's up with that? What was that like? Because I just want to know. Yeah. But also, comedians, we can be inquisitive about this stuff. We should. It's funny to us. You know what I mean?
I agree. And you're a Jersey Italian, dude.
Yeah.
Jersey Italians are just like, hey, what's this stupid shirt?
Dude,
like,
that's part of the comedy too. You say it like it is. So I always say I'm olive white.
This is the like debate right now, right? It started as like a joke, and then it became like a real debate of like, are Italians real white people?
I know. Well, we can get into
Sicilians.
Not Italian. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, well, I didn't say it. I'm just saying, I've watched Sicilians do like their traditional dance and shit. I was like, yo, that shit ain't white, dude. I was like, the way Sicilians move and like all of this, I was like, you're one of us. You're one of us, brother. Yeah.
It's so interesting, man. I talk about this too much and on this show and in my life with my friends, but you know, the Italians came over and immigrated here and they thought the streets were paved gold. And then America was like, you paved the streets.
Yeah.
You poor bastard. Like, they were not nice to us when we got here.
Yeah.
I always argue that we gave the culture good food and good movies, and everyone kind of just forgot that we had it hard in the beginning. Our people, Italians. Yeah. But I don't really know what it is. But it's kind of like the American dream for all of us. Like, you come here, you make a life happen, but Italians kind of aged out. Like, I don't know how to describe, like, aging out of the racism. Like, people don't look at us like they did when we came anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because of how long ago that was.
Yeah, it was 100
right?
years more.
I think there's also, like, over time, as you do better as a group, as you become part of the society and ingrained, like, once the power dynamics change, I think that's where it stems from, right? Also, like, so many Italians became cops. That's not doing too hot for the image. You know what I'm saying? Like
Italian and Irish in New York was all that, you know, it's
dude,
all that.
And that's what's crazy about Italian Americans to me is, like, when Italian Americans were associated with the mafia, that was like one thing. for your guys' image,
Yeah.
and now you're associated with cops. And I'm kind of like, yo, I think I'd rather be organized crime than the cops at this point.
Honestly, you could argue they're both the same. Really, they really are.
Hey,
kinda
that's
corrupt.
now we're talking.
Come on.
This sponsored by the ACLU
Right, that's
for the
right.
next season. Yeah,
So wait, you come over when you're 6, and both your parents born in India.
both
right?
parents born in India. I'm born in India. My sister born in the States a year after we moved.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Does she rub it in your face?
Yeah, dude, because she was like, I could be president one day. And I'm like, do you want that? And she's like, no, but she's like, but I
you-
could.
And you can't.
Yeah, she's like, you can't, you better sit your ass down, dude.
And you have just one sibling?
Just one sibling.
That's funny.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm one of 5, so we're
One
a
of
big
5.
Italian family, East Coast. But
Where are you in the...
Second.
You're second oldest.
yeah, you.
Okay. Eldest sibling,
Okay,
yeah.
you said that. Yeah.
So
yeah.
second oldest.
Yeah.
And so what's the age gap between all 5?
We're crazy, man. It's all over the map. My brother's 15 months older than me. Then my sisters are a couple years below me.
Yeah.
And then I have a sister 17 years younger than me, which
God
is
damn.
insane. Same parents.
Did you feel like a father to her
I did.
effectively?
I was 17. I was like, this is weird. Wait, you guys did what? How did this happen?
Yeah.
I understood it all. Me and my brother were like adults. Like, what?
Yeah.
And we never grew up with her. We were out of the house basically by
Yeah.
the time. So she's just like almost like she's my sister, but it's like
Yeah.
different, you know?
Yeah.
But-
Does she live here?
She's out. Everyone's on the East Coast. except
Everyone's
for
East
my-
Coast.
2 of my sisters are out here. So
Are you close with them all?
yeah, we're
So-
super close.
That's
yeah.
great.
How about you guys?
Yeah, way closer now. I think like because we have a 7-year age gap.
Okay.
Me and my sister. So I think like when I was in high school, we weren't as close.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, what is a 14-year-old talking to a 7-year-old about?
Right.
It's like we live such different lives.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, I think what was hard for us to communicate was like when my family moved here, we didn't have a lot of means. And then my parents did better and better. And so by the time I entered college and she was, still in middle school, like they were comfortable.
Yeah.
My parents are like now comfortably middle class to arguably like upper middle class.
Nice.
Yeah, from like very much low, like we were at like 4 of us in a 1-bedroom type, and now
sure.
like, they live a nice life in the suburbs of Chicago.
Yeah.
And so my upbringing and my mindset was so different from my sister's because of that 7-year age gap. She saw us have access to so many different things and have different means, whereas I was like, we're broke.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, we can't do this. And she's like, what are you talking about? We can do this. I was
Yeah.
like, but it could all go away. She's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, the hustle. I mean, it's so interesting because comfort, it's like we all want to reach a level of comfort.
Yeah.
But then also, I think about this as a parent now. It's like, how comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, I want to throw my kids in a room with nothing for a few.
How old are your kids?
It sounds like it might be torture. Throw them in a room with nothing.
Yeah.
See what happens, just so they have the story. Be like, we had no toys, no light, no nothing.
Yeah.
Because they have everything now. They're 2
Yeah.
and 6.
They're
About
2
to
and
be
6.
2, yeah.
Growing up in LA.
Yeah, which is absurd in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like, and I, my problem now is I kind of push against here, and I know you're new here as well, but like, I kind of joke too much about it. I have to accept that we made the move, but I'm so East Coast ingrained. I think
Yeah.
that's what my kids will get. I actually had that question for your parents. It's like when you come over from another country, you have the mentality of that country, and a lot of people come to America though and want to reach the American dream, which is what your parents did.
Yeah.
Raising a family,
100%.
making you guys more comfortable than they were probably is
Absolutely.
the dream.
Yeah.
But how much?
And then
you,
I quit to do comedy.
and then you quit, and you're like, I'm not doing. Which is, we'll get into it. That's funny. How much do you try and like assimilate with the culture, but then also retain the Indian stuff? Because like when some immigration depends on the culture. Like when we came over, a lot of Italians at the time were like, we better act American
Yeah.
to fit in, to get jobs.
Yeah.
You're not going to speak. Some people didn't even learn. Like my dad learned at home, but a lot of people that generation didn't learn the language.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
did
that-
you learn?
well,
you
that-
knew because you lived there.
I knew it because I lived there, and this is so it's very interesting you mentioned that, and that's why I was saying like the timeline of the late '90s and everything, with Italians and like Germans as well, and every like white group that immigrated here at one point. What you were talking about earlier of like at one point our history becomes less like part of the story we're telling.
Yeah.
Whatever. I think with Italians, part of it is that like you guys were told not to speak it, to like
Right.
learn English, to change your names, so it sounded less Italian, like culturally to fit in more, whatever, with like the waspy mindset,
Right, right.
And so I think that plays a huge role in it. And so, dude, the assimilation question of how much do you retain, how much do you adjust? I don't know. This is a great question. And one,
is it racist, this question? No.
I don't think so. I think
curious.
I think this is such an important question, dude. And I think saying like you shouldn't do one or the other is so disingenuous to immigration. Like you can't have immigration without both keeping the culture you come from and
Yeah.
also assimilating to the new culture, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like when you go abroad, a lot of Americans will say you have a responsibility to either try to learn parts of the language, to work with their culture. And it's like, I wholeheartedly agree. Like after college, I spent a year teaching English in Turkey.
Nice.
And thanks, man. It was sick.
Wow.
And I like learned Turkish, and I like, you know, went with the customs because I was also in like a rural mountain town.
Whoa.
And I think similarly, when people come here, it's like the same thing, right? I don't think give up your heritage. Absolutely keep the things that are you, but it's like, yeah, man, like learn the language, try to understand, it's like, what does it mean to be an American?
Yeah.
Because the reason we're a melting pot is because of the exposure and the conversations and the adjustments and sharing of all the cultures.
It's the best.
But that requires like integrating into society. You can't just move to the neighborhood of like your ethnic group and then spend the next like 60 years only interacting with like your ethnic group.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, like, why come to America if you're going to do that? That's my take. Like, don't come to America to live in, like, don't come here and then just live in like Little Delhi. It's like, go outside of Little Delhi, dude.
The Armenians in Glendale. It's like Little Armenia.
But they're so integrated into LA, right? Yeah. But it's like, if you only came here, like, let's say you're like a 22-year-old Armenian and you came here and you only spoke that language and you only hung out with other Armenians and then you spent the next 15 years mostly being in Glendale. It's like, what has America given you, man?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
That's my take. It's like, what's the point if you're not going to immerse yourself?
There's only a few places like China. I lived in Chinatown, New York for a long time, and that is a place where people, some kids born there think they're in China.
Yeah.
Still like that. That's one of the only few places still.
Well, they will only like list properties for sale or for rent in the local newspapers in like Mandarin or Cantonese.
Yeah.
And it's
so
like,
interesting.
it's such a fascinating case study.
But it must be wild too, speaking of like going places, blending in, like being the only Indian.
Yeah.
Like in middle school.
Oh, dude, sucked.
This is why you're a comedian.
Sucked.
We're getting to the psychology of why you're a comedian, which I think is this in my head. It must have been like, did you feel like, because I asked a question about assimilating, it's like, how much do you become American? But then there's also probably this weird like defense. I'm Indian. Yes, I am. My parents came over here.
Yeah.
But were kids brutal? Like if you're the only one.
Yeah, kids were mean, dude. Because it's like,
dude?
It's, I mean.
Just for being for some reason, isn't it so stupid?
Yeah,
Just
it's
for
so
being
dumb.
From somewhere else.
For being from somewhere else, for eating different food, kids are like, this is weird. Like, why are you doing this? And, you know, as a kid, you don't have the confidence you have as an adult. And you're not like, no, dude, this is like a cool thing. Like, because now you get to see something different you would have never seen. Like, but I don't know. It is really hard. I will say that played a role in the comedy for sure of just, you know, one, I was like often smaller than these kids.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm in Ohio where everyone's like beefed up. And dude, the Midwest, like, if you are watching this in the Midwest and you're like, I feel like I'm small amongst these people, whether it be like weight, height, whatever, go to California. Go to like the coast and realize like, oh no, my normal BMI is how like a lot of people look, but everyone in the Midwest is like supersized.
Yeah, it's true.
It's wild, dude. And so I was like the smaller kid, I was the foreign kid. And I had an accent for a long time.
You did?
Oh yeah, dude. I had an accent probably until like it faded over the years, but it didn't fully go away until like 8th or 9th grade.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like high school is like beginning of high school is when I was like I had fully lost the
Maybe because
accent.
you were speaking more at school and stuff than just at home, maybe because it's more like you speak at home. It's two different things.
Exactly. And my parents only spoke to us in Hindi at home because they were like, it's important you guys know and retain the language.
Yeah.
And like not forget, you know, those roots.
Of course. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it was
wild,
great.
though.
But yeah, dude, that for sure, like, it's interesting you mentioned that because I've really started to like, as I've written down stories of childhood, and like thought more. So it's like in the last 2 years is when it's hit me. I was like, oh yeah, like humor was my defense mechanism my whole life.
Totally. But it kind of also, I don't know, it's like I fine line with this stuff because I think about it as a parent now, like, I don't know what we do with comfort. Like, you're a funny comedian. You do great bits. You see the world through that lens. Maybe at one point it was survival growing up, how you did. But we can't start raising kids where everyone feels great. And then what are we going to make a bunch of lazy assholes that don't want to make anything creative or do anything? Like,
I agree.
You whittle stuff into making good stuff. I don't know. It's such a weird thing to say.
I agree.
Good stuff comes from
trauma, you're saying?
Trauma, trials, adversity.
I think it's trials, yeah. Like some sort of challenge. Because I don't know anyone who's had like just a great life and they make something really cool. But there are people, right, where you can have overall a good life, but you need like something to like fuck with you, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, we all have stuff, but like you're talking like the Indian people in the valley here is basically what I'm saying. It's like you complain. What are you really complaining about? I think it's part of where we're at with society too. Like people have a lot of time to complain about stuff like without zooming out and realizing how amazing your lifestyle is in this country. Yeah. I always joke that we should bus people to like really not war torn, but like places in.
You don't even have to go war torn, bro. Go to parts of Louisiana.
Yeah,
go to like Appalachia. Go to all the places that like are being neglected in this country, and it's crazy. Indian people are at a very interesting crossroads right now, actually, as we're talking about like the history of, you know, for Italians, for example, like Indian people are at such an interesting crossroads where we are people of color and we've struggled and been through a lot, but in a very small time frame have become a part of America's upper echelon. Like in a really small time frame became the richest ethnic group, the most $1 million homes.
Hell yeah, you guys.
It's sick, dude.
Yo, you're killing it.
It's sick, but it's like, it's so interesting because it's like, we're still not in that many positions of power.
Yeah.
We're still not in a lot of leadership or decision-making roles. And so while we have all these good things going for us, we're still not getting to call the shots for certain things. Yeah. But because things are going so well for us, people are ignoring like all the like decades of racism and oppression as well. Yeah. And so like I think we're in a really good place and we're headed somewhere great, but I am curious to see how our culture kind of bands together for the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah, but your culture, what's interesting about you know, Bollywood and like the economy and the things that culturally over there are massive. It's not just it's not just over here. It's a culture there's so many people, I feel like.
Yeah.
That it's such a massive thing internationally versus other places maybe are just smaller. I mean, in my mind, if you go to India, like there's no room. Like there's so many people. From what I've heard, my sister goes sometimes for this thing. She runs a nonprofit for kids with Down syndrome. It's awesome.
Oh,
they
sick.
do heart surgery. Yeah. But they go over there a lot. And the stories I hear from her is like, I can't imagine. There's just so many people, I feel like, over there.
Oh, dude, like population of what, like 2 billion almost now or something? If India's population was in America, America would collapse. Like, it's kind of remarkable what India's been able to accomplish in spite of its
crazy
population. There are times where I think about like places like India, for example, with the population. My parents are in Chicago. High school, college for me was Chicago. And I think about like how dope of a city Chicago is and has like almost 3 million people. And it's in spite of the shittiest weather of any major metropolis in this country. You get the worst of the
winter there, everything.
Dude, terrible.
Yeah. Have you been doing stand-up everywhere? Because like, where did you start stand-up? If you were you moved around a lot.
I moved around a lot as a kid. As an adult, honestly, it was like graduated college, moved to Turkey for a year, then moved to the Bay Area for a job, and then I was in Singapore for 6 months with work. But I didn't start stand-up there. I started stand-up in San Francisco.
Cool.
In late 2017, I started stand-up there.
Nice.
I started at a bar that no longer exists. It's called Grant and Green. It's where you would go to like fight a townie.
I like that.
Like, dude, it was a spot where every other open mic, someone was like, yeah, like we had to talk this audience member down from throwing hands with the comic. It was wild.
I think I have a show like that tonight, actually. And
Hell yeah.
I started in a Jersey place, same bar, like a biker gang in the bar.
And
I'm like roasting.
Are we talking like a Hell's Angel?
Kind of. Maybe not as tough, but like, like trying to like do jokes to people who aren't even there for comedy.
Did they know comedy was going to happen, or it was brought upon them?
Yeah, brought upon them.
That's
and
what.
like tough guys,
Yeah.
like big, tough biker guys. I think you get really good at comedy though when you do these shows. Like tonight's a friend show, and it's like all the time in the world, and I'm like, yeah, like let's just see what happens. Like it's a bar, restaurant, cool.
Yeah.
That's what's fun about this job, and also these stories you're talking about upbringing and stuff. Like you're kind of going into the ring, defending yourself, proving to people you're funny or worthy every time you do this job.
Yeah.
You have thick skin also because of how you grew up. It's like it's perfect. You grew up in a perfect way to be a stand-up. Like
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, certain things. I wish I'd taken the leap earlier. Like
Me too.
Yeah,
We all feel
you
that
knew
way.
you wanted to do it for like a long time before you did it.
I always wanted the title and never had the balls. Now I just am like, F it, I'm doing it. But I started kind of late.
What got you started? What was I need to just
I think
do
real
it?
life. I think getting older, like I did improv for so long and loved playing with people.
Yeah,
And then wife, kids, trials, tribulations. I'm like, I could talk more about like what I've learned and the hard things I've been through.
yeah,
Being single and in your 20s in New York, like I wish I started there because I was in New York and I would have had better reps.
yeah.
But I would have been like, what's the deal with these expensive lattes and hipster culture and my, like, I don't know. It would
Dating's hard, dude. These girls want $15 cocktails, and it's like
I guess it's just my vantage point now, but I feel like I'm more of a well-rounded family guy, which constitutes my comedy more. I talk about upbringing.
Yeah.
I want to be a
and
family.
your experiences,
Exactly.
right? And if you had started, you might not have had these experiences. Like you might not have met your wife, or it would not have been the same dynamic.
Yeah, I don't know if you have this filter on people who don't have wives or real life stuff. Like it's sometimes hard. I remember being selfish and like single.
Yeah,
But I don't really see, like, it's hard to see life through that lens. Like I have, single friends who post selfies every day on the internet. I'm like, I just can't, I can't really empathize why you do that still. You're 38.
Yeah.
Like, why are you still just posting selfies every day?
there's that Jersey Italian, and you're like,
Like, what are you?
you fucking 40. What do you put the
40.
camera down? Go start a family.
Meet somebody. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a hard. You see life through that lens, but I also think most people, I want to be relatable to people like me, but also you're a husband. Like, there's stuff that we go through at this part of life. And look, there's young comics who are relatable to younger people. I just think where I'm at is, I guess life got harder, and I was like, I have more to leaven life with.
Yeah, and you had more to talk about.
Levity, yeah.
You had more to talk about, and you also probably needed more of a release too.
That's
and,
it. Yeah, that's what
different
I'm
ways
saying.
of storytelling.
Yeah. And my release was always other people. This is my favorite thing to do. But even when I'm on stage, I talk to people. Like I can't not talk. You're good at that too. Talking
Thanks,
to the crowd, and I just love the form of it. And if you use your strengths and communicate with the crowd, it's also like interviewing in a way too. So I enjoy all of it. I want to get better at my material. Like I want to write more. You know? You said before you talk about like your upbringing and stuff. Like, do you have a certain amount of time? Do you work on the stories you're telling, or your point of view, or what do you do for that?
Yeah, I mean, one, I wish I was more disciplined with my writing. I feel like as all comics do, right? Unless you're like a savant or delusional, one of the two. I try to write about the upbringing a good amount, simply because it's like I can sit down and reflect, and it helps me process. Like, oh, how did this shape me, or what's funny, or like, how do I make this relatable? Because like some of the stuff, like I don't know if you remember, it's like I have the joke about like being Indian in Cleveland and like learning about the baseball team. It's like that part's not necessarily like they're not going to relate to being Indian in Cleveland, but they'll relate to like their family struggled with this cultural adaptation, or there was this thing in this town where they were just like, oh, are we the last people to find out about this thing? And so just trying to figure that out, like how do you tell your story but make it accessible? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then there's more of me, which I feel like I do a decent job of, hey, here's how I was brought up.
Yeah.
And now I do a decent job of like, here's my worldview today.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm actually not vulnerable enough about who I am today on stage.
Same.
I think that's my huge gap is like, what are my issues today? I actually don't know if I do a good job of talking about
Well,
that.
I don't think any of us do, but I think that's also what we try to do every time. And the more reps you do and the more you work at the writing, you get more honest up there. And I think my best shows are when I like get stuff off my chest that's real, and I tag them and come up with jokes.
What have you been working on lately that you're like?
Honestly, I'm rusty right now. I've been off for a few weeks. I was away with the family.
Okay.
So you're actually talking about biggest like point of work for this year, which is how I was raised.
Yeah.
Stories from. I have a chart over here actually. I wrote my whole set out and I write like what's missing, what don't people know.
Yeah.
And that's a big chunk where it's like I have so many funny stories, man. I went to Catholic school my whole life on the East Coast.
Whole life Catholic school
until college.
God damn.
And so,
first 18 years.
Yeah. So like and just stories like all boys school, high school.
Yeah.
Growing up Italian, and I just don't think I am vulnerable enough about all the stuff like I went through in that lens. So I'm trying to figure out how to tell that. And what makes it relatable and unique to me. It's just so weird about stand-up. Like, hey, this is super unique on my point of view and funny, but also you relate.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be like me, you've never heard this before, but you also feel it. That's the challenge.
It's so hard.
Right?
It's so hard to tap into that, right? Of like, how do I make it not hack, but relatable? Like, how can I get, you know, whoever 200, 300, whatever number of people are in the audience today to be like, oh, why? Yeah, dude, that makes sense.
I might be a hack comedian because I don't believe in the concept because hack only means that other comedians think you're not funny. But if an audience is laughing, you're funny. I don't care.
I agree with that, actually. Like, I do. I think your job when you get up there is to make people laugh.
Doesn't matter.
And if you're doing 20 minutes on like airline peanuts, but they're laughing, it's like power to you, dude.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think that's for me, but it's like if it's working for you, do your shit.
I get too name droppy sometimes when I tell comedy stories, but this year, as a comedian, one of the coolest interviews I've ever done was Jim Gaffigan, Jerry Seinfeld from NBC.
Yeah, that's different, right, than this podcast.
No, this is the same level of comedy chat because we're comedians.
Because I did see, before I came on this podcast, I was like, all right, he just interviewed Michael Keaton and Catherine O'Hara. I was like, I hope this is a different audience because they're gonna tune in and be like, all right, Paul's on a heater right now. It's like he had Keaton, he had Catherine, Jenna Ortega. He's like, who the fuck is this Indian guy?
No, bro, that's actually why I really enjoy doing this show because I am grateful for my day job with that stuff, and then trying to grow the comedy podcast as well. And then they bleed over, and I have people from that world come in here sometimes too. So I just love talking to people. So don't worry, you belong. You belong. It is the same exact audience. We're actually live in 3 cities right now.
Hey, let's go.
What's up, Albuquerque? And I'm not on Albuquerque. No. But no, what was I saying? I forgot now.
So you were talking about, let's see, growing up Italian, being more vulnerable on stage.
Yes, working on that part of the material.
Oh, you were talking about you got to interview Gaffigan.
And so those guys reminded me, thank you, you're more professional than me at this point in the day. Jim said something really interesting because I kind of told them, I was like, you know, you guys always perform. I do Gotham in New York sometimes. I'm like, I'm always nervous both of you are going to walk in. They both pop in there a lot.
Yeah.
And so I just told them, which was so cool to tell them.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're so worried. Like, if Jerry told me my set was funny, it would give me wings, comedy wings, for years to be like, Jerry liked my set. And I told them to his face, which was cool. And Jim was like, we give so much power to other comics. He's like, he told me the audience thing. So I like sharing other comics. It's like, why do we give our power away to 1, 2 people who are also in their head and comedians and worried? When it's really, he's like, the audience is the ultimate factor. Keep making people laugh. He's like, don't overthink anybody else. Because I get that way too. You go do clubs in LA, you're with peers, you're with cool people. Like, you get in your head about how you appear to these people when we're around it all the time. We're not the paying audience.
Yeah.
So just make the audience laugh. Like, that's why the hack thing I don't like, because it's really just other comics. And I bet you, one day, thousands of comics are going to call me a giant hack. But am I going to care if I'm selling tickets? That's my point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like, our goal is similar.
Yeah.
It's also cool to
It's
make
like, because
friends.
would you rather, like, there's the 2 extremes, right? You could be like, say whatever you want of like super hack comedy. There's also like the comics who only perform for the back of the room where the other comics are standing. And it's like, what do you want, man? You want that life? Like, figuring out where you fit in. It's like, whatever gives, to your point, like whatever makes those like wings flap.
Yeah. And,
right?
and I liked your line of material, and it stuck out when I saw you live. It's like, telling our stories, telling people who we are, being relatable. Like, you're tapped in for sure into like good stuff. Like, I really like your set.
Man.
It was
I
funny,
really appreciate that.
Truly, like, you, for how long you've been doing it, you're a killer already.
I really appreciate that.
You've been doing what, 7 years? You said
almost 7. Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing great, man.
Thanks, dude.
Do you headline? Are you headlining?
No, I
feel like you could. You did our show technically.
Yes, so I will headline like showcases, but I don't right now seek out like one-nighters or anything. I have a lot of peers doing it, and some nights they do great. Other nights they're like stressed. Like, dude, I sold 10 tickets in this town. Like, I'm gonna lose my shirt on this, and I'm just kind of like, right now, I just get to work on a lot of material, And it's kind of like, for me, my goals are like, yes, I would love to headline. I want to headline one day. I will never stop doing stand-up comedy, but I also do want to act. You know, I want to be in like sitcoms. I want to do other things. I do those like political reels. I would love to be part of the Daily Show one day.
Oh, I could see that for you too.
Thanks, man. And so trying to figure that out for me, I feel like it will all feed into the ecosystem of like symbiotic with stand-up.
Yeah.
So it's like when I start to headline, it will be off like someone might know me from one thing, someone might know me from another thing. It's not just going to be like people who found my reels on Instagram and came out.
You never know, man. That's what's fun about being creative and comedic in this world. I mean, same with me with the hosting and the stand-up. It's like you got to throw everything against the wall. I don't like that I don't know. Like I want to be more defined. Like if I just do this one thing all the time, it's going to be my ticket to touring and this and then more sponsors for a live thing. Like I want to know now. That's what's annoying.
But here's your benefit, dude, is you have a very likable and dynamic personality, right? No, I'm just saying, like you're a charismatic dude and you're already likable. So while you figure out like how to be more vulnerable on stage or tell this story or that story, what you have is the fact that when you get up there, people like you, they trust you, they want to hear your story.
Hopefully,
and then you also have like your following with all the host stuff, and it all again feeds into one another,
all the same
right?
Stuff. I feel the same way about you though.
Oh,
you're likable
thanks,
immediately.
dude. Thanks, man.
That's such a big part.
Until I start talking so much shit to the audience.
No, I like when you talk. You're likable when you talk shit, which is actually what is the best thing about this job. If we're likable and charismatic, you can say.
You get away with a lot.
Stuff.
You get away with a lot.
You get away with a lot. You might get away with more than me. Yeah. Maybe it's the Indian thing gives you a little more of a bend.
Yeah. Indian and being 5'7", because I'm physically not threatening.
Yeah.
And I think that becomes a different piece of it. They're just like, it's just a fucking little guy making jokes.
Is any race off or on limits based on like because you have your story? Do you think you could say anything to anyone? Like I can't like think about race wise.
Yeah.
I go hard in the paint though now because I'm doing comedy. I'm like I'm never racist, but I will say like I did a Mexican accent on stage for like 10 minutes last month, and
10 minutes?
A while, and because a guy in the crowd kept interjecting.
You did 10 minutes of a Mexican accent.
No,
that's crazy. Where were you?
As I did my set, I kept responding to this guy with the same accent.
Where were you?
I'm like, I shouldn't be doing that, right? Like, is it too much? I don't know.
Again, is it funny? Are they laughing?
They loved it.
Yeah, and I think that's what.
But I shouldn't.
I'll make a joke about any like group as long as it's got to be good.
Yeah.
Is it good? What is the purpose of this joke? Am I saying it just to say it? Am I telling a greater story? Am I like hurting them? And that's the other thing. I think the last piece is like I will never intentionally mock like some marginalized group, right? And that's but I
think comics do that.
Oh hell yeah, dude!
Really?
Hell yeah! Some people definitely set out with like bad intentions.
Oh, see,
and I think the intention's so important, right?
I would never have that intention either. But when you're going for the laugh, I feel like stuff just comes like the Mexican accent thing. I'm joking about. But this guy just had a big accent. And I just kept
You were saying it back to him. You were holding up a mirror.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But I guess I asked because like in our times, you know, maybe if I was bigger name and someone got a tape of that, they may have been like he shouldn't be doing that voice. Like it's like where do you pick and choose? It's so gray.
I think it's so like what is true to you and what's the audience you've built, right? Because I do think there's certain comics where if they did that voice and it was on tape, they'd be game over.
Yeah, right.
But then other ones, dude, Shane Gillis is as white as it gets.
So great.
But Shane could put out a special with a Mexican accent.
Totally. It's what I mean.
And people would be like, this is Shane. And so I think it's like, if it's true to you as Paul of like, if someone says an accent to me, I'll say it back jokingly, and it's like coming out of love.
Yes, it's love.
And it's love. It's coming from like I understand you, I see you, and I want to have fun with you. You're playing, right? This is where the improviser in you is coming out. It's like your character is playing off of who he is.
Also being aware, like I remember that show, I kept saying like I kept doing a time on it. That was part of the jokes. I was like, I've been doing Mexican for 4 minutes now. Like how we feel. It was Burbank, so like it's a little more blue collar there.
Yeah.
So I kept checking in with them, like white guy doing. I think I made jokes about it.
And I think that's so important, right? That awareness, talking about it. I think that's within the bounds. I think it's within the limits if like your intention's not negative. you're
No.
coming from a good
could
place. Again, it's just two not Mexican dudes deciding when it's okay.
This is the authority on Mexican accents in
Yeah.
comedy. Indian guy, Italian guy. We got it. We figured you out. In
Si se
LA.
puede. Si se puede.
Si.
Dude, I would much rather you be a hack comic,
Right.
you know, whatever your definition is, than some like edgelord whose shock value be like, can you believe they did this?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, fuck that guy. That's the comic I don't want to work with.
Yeah, that's a genre. That's not my genre. I'm family friendly, but you know, here and there things come out in the crowd. I just think I bring this up because my line from hosting to stand up, my line has moved. Where like I'll say things on stage in a comedy club I would never really say hosting an interview or something, because it's like almost like you're the pressure to get a laugh.
Yeah.
You just react and try and go for a tag. And you know this skill. You do it great as well. You have to show up. And so I'm not saying it comes out racist. I just mean like if you're talking about race, you go for what's funny in the room.
Yeah, because the next thing is you're gonna get to accent at some point. You're gonna get to it.
Exactly.
You're
And
gonna
like for me,
get to it.
I never have bad intention. I think you hit it on the nail though, because it's the same with you. It's like likability and having good intention is the key for maybe all good work in this space. Like if I sit down for an interview, if you go do a scene, you have to come from a good place. You can't if you come aggro or with some, bad idea of another person, it's never going to go the right way anyway. So, and you can tell with comics, you're like, oh, it's going a little hard that way.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that was too much. That was it. I've definitely had those moments where someone crowd works and I was like, dude, you were mean. Like that wasn't. Yeah. I was like, you were mad about something else that you took out on this person. Yo, tell me this though. How has your stand-up then influenced your interviewing and hosting stuff?
So funny, man. It's made me a more comfortable host.
Okay.
Flat out, because I think going in front of strangers, making them laugh is harder than sitting down with anyone.
Yeah.
So adrenal wise, you're getting laughs from strangers all the time. And for us, and at least for me, where I'm at with comedy, you have to prove to people who don't know you're funny right away.
Yeah.
When I'm working and I'm interviewing people, I'm just really helping them promote whatever they're doing. And my job is to make them comfortable and get good answers, but it's not as difficult as in 15, 20 seconds getting strangers to think something's really funny.
Yeah.
So you walk into a room now, it's like the best examples. I first came to LA and I was like really hitting stand up hard, lots of nights. I still am.
What year was this?
Second year of the pandemic. So 3
second
years
year of
ago.
the pandemic. Okay, is that when you guys moved to LA?
Yeah. So I started.
What prompted that?
The pandemic, family stuff.
Yeah.
East Coast, we just like switched it up. Second year came here in January, but it wasn't the most conscious choice to stay, and then we ended up staying. But once staying, I was like, if I'm going to be in LA, because I've already been doing the TV stuff, I want to become a better comedian, because this is a town to get in the scene and really get good shows and just work as a comic.
It's just such a hard town, though, as a comic.
It's the worst. But I started in New York, which gave me kind of a little bit of that, like, I can do this here thing. And hosting helps me. But the biggest example was, like, I did, like, a string of shows one week, and then I went into a studio the next day with some movie stars.
Yeah.
And I was just, like, looser and crazier because you guys are just here to talk about this movie, not laugh for 20 minutes.
Yeah. So it made you, like, more of a real person in front of them.
I think I always was that way. I just think it's even more now.
Yeah.
It's like more relaxed.
You're heightened.
Which is a detriment to maybe some jobs who like want.
You think so?
I don't know. At the grand scheme of things, no. But I'm saying like I'm not really as controllable. Like I feel a lot more in command. You can't like you could have 20 people and publicists all mad at me. Like if it's a good thing happening, I'm not gonna be ruffled. You know what I mean? Like you don't get, because we can't be ruffled at stand up. We don't get, if we're ruffled, we're dead.
Yeah.
So in any other job, that's why everyone should do stand up.
So you're saying like if some celebrity says some wild shit to you, you're gonna be like, tell me more.
Yeah.
And the publicist is gonna be like, no, fucking don't.
I
please
just
don't.
mean like the environment. I'm so comfortable in the environment anyway because I've done it so long. Like, I'm more comfortable doing this than telling you about childhood wounds or whatever. But like the environment's so comfy now, and it's comfier because the stand-up environment is harder to me.
Yeah.
Is that a long
It's
answer?
a different challenge. No, it's a different challenge. And so like you're saying because of that challenge, you become more comfortable in this other environment where you're like, even though on paper the stakes seem higher to be talking to this name.
Yeah.
It's like everyone in that room is trying to like succeed towards the same mission.
Yeah.
Whereas with stand up, it's like you're not necessarily doing that. Like you're in a biker bar in New Jersey,
Yeah, exactly.
trying to win over people who don't give a shit
Right,
about you.
right.
Whereas like this actor has a movie coming out and they want to talk to you about
Yeah, exactly.
like
it's more built in.
Transformers 7 or whatever.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm doing that next week. It's more. I swear to God. I'm doing the
Transformers?
new Transformers next week.
Hilarious. Is Wahlberg in it?
No, one of the sexy Australian guys, the blonde guy.
Hemsworth?
Yeah, one of the Hemsworths. Yeah.
Chris, Liam? Which
Yeah,
one?
Chris. I think. I should
Chris?
do my research before next
All right,
week. but
dude.
thanks, man.
He's like the size of Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a
he's massive.
unit.
Yeah, my wife loves him. I'm insecure about it.
Whose
But,
wife doesn't love Chris
know.
Hemsworth, dude? Would you like if like one day, like Chris Hemsworth started flirting with your wife, like you'd kind of be like, I'm mad, but at the same time you'd be like, this is major props, dude.
Yeah.
We have the same taste. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me the insecurity comes like my wife would just leave me for him. Like I think that's the problem is like
she wouldn't.
I'd be like, well, it's over. Chris Hemsworth wants in.
I promise you, dude.
I know. Well, hopefully not.
He couldn't rock that SSBD the same way. It'd be too tight on the biceps.
He would be swimming in it.
Yeah.
No, it'd be too tight. The other thing about stand up, because I think you have this too, is it. And I go very up and down with this. I get very insecure. Why am I doing this? I'm not funny. I should just focus on something else.
Welcome to the game, baby.
But the other side of it, you do get this confidence when you ask me about the interview and stuff. I'm more sure of who I am in my life and my jobs.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not so afraid to be the Paul guy I am on stage everywhere else because that works there. So it kind of constitutes everything else. And it's terrible for personal relationships. Like, we're not stand-ups in there. How's your marriage when you do bits? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
So,
dude.
like-
I mean, there are times where I'll, like, we'll be with friends and we'll, like, banter, and then I'll take it up a level to, like, comedian banter, and they're just like, yo, what the fuck did you just say to me? And I'm just like, yeah, that's my bad, man. I realize the environment is different. You're like an accountant, and I shouldn't say that to you. I'll save that for my comedian friends.
Well, what happens is I piss off my wife with one bit, and then I literally triple down. Like, I'll do 3 or 4 tags.
What would you do? What'd you say? Can you share it or no?
I'm just trying to think of an example. Like, I'll just keep going. Like, a minute or two later, I'll come up with a tag.
You're workshopping.
I'm workshopping tags.
This conversation's a tax write-off.
She always jokes. She's preparing me for hecklers because like she won't give me anything back, and I'm like, all right, that's good. It fixes
How'd you guys meet?
This on camera. 2013.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You were interviewing her?
Yeah.
Okay. What was like her project?
She's a singer-songwriter, so she was promoting an album. I worked in radio in New York, and we had a very romantic moment on camera. And so this is to go to show. I always joke like you never know you're going to meet. But also met her at a time working where like I kind of hit on her in a way that wasn't like you shouldn't hit on people at work, but it wasn't the same boss.
So it's on like camera
It's
of
on
you
YouTube,
like you hitting on your wife in a way that today would have probably gotten you in trouble if you were
I don't
single.
know, no, because I'm me. I was very like respectable, but you could tell that there was like something in the air.
There was chemistry.
Totally. I spoke Italian with her. We talked
Look
about
at
our
you,
family.
you dog. She's
like,
Italian
ciao.
too?
Yeah, I was like, hey, ciao. And I asked her out for 2 years after that, and she was on tour and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then eventually, 2 years later, she asked me out. So
Okay. Did you ever meet up with her while she was on tour or anything?
on and off. Like I kind of had a crush, and I was like, we got to go out. And then I kind of knew
You were like a groupie for a bit.
yeah, in a way.
Hell yeah, dog.
She always tells a story. She invited me to a show in New York, and she gave me like 5 tickets to like bring my friends and family. And I showed up alone in a bow tie. And I was like, ciao, bella. Like, I was just like, old
I like that. You're an Italian guy. You're like, I don't need
"What's up?"
company. You're my company.
I was like, oh, you want me to come to the show? Like, we're going to go out to this Sinatra spot in New York after this.
You took her to like a jazz bar or some shit?
I wanted to. She was like, she had to go back to her thing. But we eventually went to that spot. Yeah. So it's crazy, man. How about you? How long have you been married?
Married 3.5 years now.
Bravo.
Yeah. We started dating a year after I graduated college. We went to college together.
Oh, cute.
She was like one of my best friends. Like I said, I moved to Turkey to teach English when I came back to the States. And like a month after that, we started dating.
Can you just be honest about the Turkey trip? Can you say I
Yeah.
moved to Turkey to speak English and get plugs? Can you just tell everyone the truth?
Dude, I want plugs.
I want to go there for plugs.
You want plugs?
I have spray on for TV right now. So
I can't. Are you
talk
fucking
about
with
it
me?
A lot. No, I talk about it a lot because it's my biggest insecurity. I'm not as thick as I once was in the front, so we kind of Lego mine it for TV.
Whatever they sprayed looks great.
I have a shoot in the morning. I had a shoot this morning for TV, so I'm very used to the grooming of TV.
Would you do plugs here or
No, we're
there?
going to Turkey, bro. Let's go. I'll go with you. You speak
Here's
Turkish.
here's my issue with it is like you and I make money off our appearance.
Exactly.
If someone messes up in a foreign country, what is the accountability?
You speak Turkish, so you
But
can help
what's
us
the
out.
accountability, dude?
None.
None. So it's like I think I want to get plugs in the States. I want to go to like you might have to censor this. I want to go to whoever Chris Evans got, because you look at Chris Evans and Knives Out, and you look at
yeah.
Chris Evans today, you're like, those
Sebastian,
are good
too.
plugs.
Sebastian Maniscalco got a great like fake mop up there.
Did he?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh
It
yeah,
looks like
that's
it's
nice.
pretty. You know what? It's funny. You can always
Daniel
tell.
Tosh.
Yeah,
Tosh was going bald,
Carell,
bro.
Steve Carell.
Oh my
I've
God,
seen him in
Carell
person.
season 1 of The Office.
I've seen him in person. I'm like, yo, those are nice. Yeah. You know what? Also, though, I like talking about this subject because there's been such a stigma for men. Like it's like such an insecurity of ours.
It is.
It's so scary.
It's so weird because it's like if you're just balding, people will make fun of you, but if you then fix the problem, they'll make fun of you. It's like we don't do that for women's body issues the same way.
Yeah.
Why are we coming at dudes for wanting plugs?
Also, you can't really complain about like the men's part of it because there's such a double standard. Like the second we complain about our appearance, like, well, yeah, but you're not women. You can't. You guys, it's different for you guys.
Yeah.
But we have our own things.
We have our own things. They have it worse. I will not deny it.
Who had it worse?
Dude, women had it worse. Women had it. But yeah, I would get plugs. I think in the States, dude.
I'm down actually. Maybe you're right.
But it's expensive.
so much more expensive
so
here.
expensive.
Go to Turkey, half price. Eat some good food.
Less than half, bro.
Cereals.
The quote I was getting here from a place. I won't name any of these places.
You don't need it. What are you talking about?
No, a little bit on tumble. We can talk about it. There's a place here was quoting me like 6-7K.
Wow.
Turkey, they were like 1,400 US. They're like, we'll put you up for a few days too, and all that.
Wow.
I was like, this is with like hotel. He's like, yeah, if you want like the VIP package, it was like 2,100 or something. It was like with transportation and meals and
Wow.
all this, and I was like, this is like a third of the price.
I love the idea of us going on a comedy tour one day and then we do this in Turkey and we come back with like carpet hair, like carpets on our heads.
So
and we
funny.
I always joke that like I would get to a point where I wear like I'm the obnoxious Italian guy with like such a fake toupee and everyone knows it. And I just don't care. I'm just rocking it.
But also, it's like, dude, I want a thick, flowy head. Look at Joel McHale, your E News predecessor.
Yeah. He's legit.
Yeah,
It looks good.
His hair looks great.
We need this. I don't know. Like, I'm not a Bruce Willis type. I'm not the Jason.
Statham.
I can't pull off bald, man.
I want to, but I can't. I don't think I would.
I think you could buzz. You have a nice shaped head.
I don't think it would look good. So part of the reason I want the plugs is to get more like buzz cuts and like fades. Because right now, with the hairline looking all goofy, it's not going to look as good.
Shorter.
Yeah.
Want to hear
Especially
a dumb statement? I don't think I've ever met an Indian person with a shaved head. Ever.
We're around,
there.
bro.
They're
They're
out there.
there. There's a lot
It's
of
not a look, I feel like.
Yeah, Mahatma Gandhi, the OG,
I should remember that
the
one.
OG, the OG Indian.
How could you forget the guy who's a statue in New York City right now, Union Square?
He has a statue in New York
He
City?
does in Union Square, yeah.
That's hilarious.
He got into some shit.
I lived, I interned at a bank in New York one summer, and I lived in the NYU dorms.
Oh, yeah.
Right above Union Square.
Yeah.
And there were always like white, bald Hare Krishnas outside, and they'd be like, can we teach you about Hinduism? I was like, bitch, can I teach you about Hinduism? I was like,
You're like, your parents made you too comfortable. Now you think you need to do this.
yeah.
When
Get out of here.
You live in a mansion in the Hamptons, and you take a private
Yeah, why are you
car to come
here? Yeah.
to pretend to be Hindu.
You got an orange tunic on, and you're like, talking-
You found this. I love when rich kids go to New York to like try and find
Be
themselves
artsy.
and be artsy. It was like
Yeah.
remember the that Wall Street movement was all those types of kids. That was a while ago. The finance movement. What was it? Where they were just kind of like.
You're talking about Occupy Wall Street?
Yes, that was all those types of kids.
Really?
Yeah. Totally.
Okay, so I never went to the New York one. Chicago one was not that.
No?
I hit the Chicago Occupy Wall Street, and it was definitely a lot of like people who were like about that life.
I don't know. I remember thinking the New York one was a lot of those like rich kids looking for
The Soros. They were Soros actors.
or just looking for like a plight. Like we need to have our own thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of that now, dude. Like there's so much of like, what's your struggle? Like everyone's trying to pull out. It's like Pokemon cards. It's like, I have this.
Yeah.
And then someone will be like, but I have a gluten allergy. They're like, I have gluten and lactose.
Ooh.
And it's like, it becomes this like fight of like who had it worse. Would you do comedy in Italy? Italian?
It'd be a dream.
Yo, what's stopping you from like coming up with some Italian bits and like messing around here?
Like in Italian?
Hell yeah.
Well, it's so funny. I took a stand-up class in college, which I had totally forgot about this, but I did 1 year of stand-up in college, and then I did improv. I did improv instead for a long time. But that year we were doing every week we had to write bits. There was a famous stand-up coach in New York who taught at my college. It was really cool. He actually taught Gaffigan, which is wild.
Sick. Okay.
But my opener was I did like a whole thing in Italian. My open was all in Italian. I remember back then, but I kind of like forgot. I think I got up there and just started speaking Italian for like 30 seconds, and like, that was like sort of what I did. But you're right, man. I mean, I need to talk about all these things. I lived there. I became metrosexual in Italy. I wanted to wear student ride a Vespa.
You didn't become metrosexual. You tapped into your heritage.
Yeah. And by the way, can we get metro in maybe that's can metro become part of the struggle, even though it's so easy to just be a well-groomed male?
I think every man who lives in a city now is a metrosexual.
Yeah.
I think it was like an identity back in the day, you know, like 10 years ago when you're like, oh, that guy listens to Justin Timberlake and lights incense. But now it's like every dude is metro.
But I'm so
that's table stakes.
I'm like old school. Like I can't, like I don't want the shorts. I like cigars. I like the thing. To me, I think of the 50s, 60s and people like me. But Indian people are similar. It's similar, like the class. It's a class of a time period.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of that is because of the influence of like Western culture on India at that time, because we were like freshly removed from colonialism, right? But so much of our exploitation to art and culture outside of Bollywood came from that. And then that also influenced Bollywood culture. So you watch like 70s Indian films and they're dressed like the Rat Pack.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Like they're dressed like Sinatra and Dean Martin and those guys. So it's really cool to see.
Who is your, like, because we talk about my guys and I love these upbringing, but is there anybody from growing up that, like, was it for you that you still, like, try to be like style-wise?
Oh, dude. James Bond is, as the character of James Bond is so responsible for the various luxury men's goods I'm into. Like, I love cars, I love watches, suits, because I watch so many James Bond movies.
We're talking Pierce Brosnan, or who's your one?
I'm talking, like, I started with the Connery Bonds.
Nice.
So, because my dad would watch, like, Sean Connery Bond, and I would watch those, and then I liked Brosnan. I loved Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig's great.
Exceptional Bond.
Who's the next Bond?
Dude, they were saying Aaron Taylor Johnson,
I heard that
right?
too. He would be good.
He would be good. He'd be good. I'm mostly familiar with him from Bullet Train, and Bullet Train was sick.
He was really funny. He just did.
I liked it.
He was in the new Gosling movie too, the Stuntman movie, and he's pretty funny.
Oh, in the Fall Guy?
Yeah, he was in
I haven't seen it yet. I heard Fall Guy's really good.
Funny in that. I'm excited for the Bond world. What a great stylized world.
Dude, I wish they would do a spin-off with Ana de Armas.
That'd be cool.
She did a great job in that scene that she was in No Time to Die.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know when she came over, she didn't speak English? You know that story about her?
No.
She came to America, didn't speak a lick of English, learned English with her first role, and then like learned how to speak with an accent that sounded American, I guess, as she learned English. So
she's gorgeous, seems very charming, very likable as well.
She's good.
Yeah.
That's crazy though to think about. Like, imagine going to another country and immediately being like on set and just like learning, like not knowing anything and learning a language.
Yeah,
like, it's crazy, dude.
That's pretty privileged though. That
nice.
is, yeah.
Nice.
No one ugly's moving abroad and being like, make me a star.
Yeah. What a way to learn a language. Like just being, like having all the things in the world you need.
Yeah.
Nice. Are you jealous?
Of that? Yeah, hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
I would love that. If I had moved to Turkey and they were like, dude, we want to put you in movies, I'd be like, yes.
Why'd you go to Turkey? Like, what made you go there?
So, I'll just be fully candid with you. My freshman year of college, I was like mapping out what my like years were going to look like. And I was like, I probably can't study abroad, but I really want to live abroad. So I was like, I'm going to be a Fulbright scholar. And I like just put it out there. And I just like told one of my friends one day, I was like, I want to be a Fulbright. She's like, that's a crazy like goal to set out of your control. I was like, yeah, but I want this. I was like, I'm going to go do it. Okay. And she's like, all right, dude, fucking whatever, I guess. And then when I was choosing countries, I was like, I want to be on a similar calendar year to the U.S. education system so I can like graduate college, go abroad. Right. And what we were talking about where you lived with Americans when you went to Florence instead of Italians, I specifically did not want to live with like a host family. Because I was like, I'm already going to be exposed to a new culture and like working in this environment. I also don't want this like other variable of like, if we don't vibe, it will ruin the whole experience.
Yeah.
And I understand that's like worst case thinking, but I was
Yeah.
and so it narrowed it down to like 5-6 countries for me, and Turkey was just such an interesting place, like because I'm a huge history nerd, and it's such a fascinating
Yeah.
place historically, and even today, like the position it sits in both geographically as well as politically as like a NATO country, but not the EU, and like the leaders they cozy up with. It's such a fascinating place.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I want to go here.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it
That's
was.
awesome. And you had a
Thanks,
whole year
man.
there?
Did a whole year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's when you live somewhere else like that. I mean, you came from India, but when you live somewhere else at that age, you really learn a lot.
It's different, dude.
Yeah.
It's different. And I was through the State Department, so it's not like we got paid a lot. So
Right.
it like makes you adjust in a different way. Because later I went to Singapore with a tech company, but that was a good salary. I was
Yeah.
living in a beautiful apartment, and I was like, oh, this is a different life.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone should go live somewhere else for a little. It's like so good for your growth as a person. And the topics we were talking about earlier, like I always joke the solve for racism is just busing everyone who's never been, busing different people, like places that are just one type of person in
Yeah.
America. Just bust people from all over, like New York, like in New
Yeah.
York or in LA. But the people there don't want that. But I'm saying, like, once you're around enough of this different people, you really learn a lot. That's how it was for me growing up.
Yeah.
It's like that's part of the problem is people just don't see things. And
So
just-
here's my hot take on that. I think we should have mandatory conscription as a country.
Okay.
I think we should have 2 years, maybe even 1 year of service. You cannot get out of it. No like money exemption or any and it's like don't send everyone to war, but like put people in an environment where they will, as a result of this mandatory conscription, interact with people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, from
Survival,
different
too.
parts of the country,
Yeah.
and get to know each other. Because we don't talk to each other, man. We move
Yeah.
from bubble to bubble to bubble.
What if it was like in abroad instead of service because people are pussies?
Yeah.
What if it was?
But we
just-
don't have to send them to fight. That's what I'm saying.
What if it was schooling though? Like when like a kid comes abroad like from high school and just does like a year, like what's that called when in high school? Exchange.
Exchange, yeah.
What if it was an American exchange where like Midwest goes to school in New York or like people just exchange? I mean, they wouldn't. Do
Yeah.
it, but
No, I'm down, dude. If we can get our government to pay for something like
wouldn't that
this,
be interesting?
It'd be so sick. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's why I think like you look at the trajectory that Mormons have had in America and how so many of them have all these like ridiculous startups and they just do so well financially. I think it's because they do that 2-year mission
Yeah.
where they're sent somewhere else and they have to sell an idea to people who don't want it.
Yeah. It's
But you get to like learn a new country, you get to learn a new language, you
Yeah.
learn how to position religion to people.
Yeah. You ever been to Utah? Where are those guys?
I have,
It's wild.
but yeah, I was in Park City.
Yeah, me too.
During like an event, so it was like I was in the most Candyland version of Utah. I feel like I need to go to real Utah. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I had a driver from the airport to Park City that like really put me on my toes. Like it was like Park City was I was there for work too.
Yeah.
But my driver made me feel like he was gonna abduct me and do some weird. Like it was really interesting.
You were gonna be one of his wives.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
maybe I'll be the next wife for this guy in this world. But yeah, it's a fascinating religion and it's so interesting. And Utah is so specific. Like they're all over there. I didn't ask you about Hinduism because I was curious. You mentioned it before.
Mm-hmm.
Are you Hindu now, or you
I-
grew up Hindu?
Yeah, I grew up Hindu. I am Hindu now. I don't think I'm the best Hindu because I enjoy a steak. You know, I'll do.
How on the scale of sacrilege? How high is that eating steak?
Eating steak is pretty high on the scale
all
of
right, I don't know.
sacrilege to Hinduism. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a completely fair question. Listen, man, I grew up Hindu. I'm Hindu. I eat beef because it's delicious. And it feels like one of those things where I'm like, if God didn't want me to eat this, why would he make it taste so good?
I say the same thing about cocaine, dude. Nah, actually, I've never done it, but yeah,
I've
you're
never
right.
done coke either.
Nah.
And we look like two prime coke candidates.
Actually, today we're like fear and loathing in LA right now. You and I like we look
Yeah.
like coke guys.
We actually like it kind of feels fraudulent for us to look and dress like this and not have ever done cocaine.
But that's so interesting you say that. Do your parents don't eat it? Are they
My
very
parents do
devout?
not eat beef.
Right.
Every time they watch me, they're like, "Why are you doing this?"
But also, this is kind of the American dream in my eyes too. It's like you come here, you have your own American life. You're gonna have a cheeseburger. You're American.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah,
it's a blend of culture,
yeah.
right?
I'm like, take your little culture back, mom and dad. I'm eating this goddamn.
Also, that's that's dietary. Like, that's not. What is the worst thing? And I'm curious on this line of questioning.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I know a lot about faith. I grew up Catholic, but we actually studied different religions growing up. But I feel like I know the least about Hinduism, honestly.
That's fair.
I don't know why. It's just kind of how it is.
It doesn't. So Hinduism, I feel like Hinduism doesn't get taught a lot. Doesn't get a lot of like exposure. We don't do like a ton of marketing about it.
You have bad marketing Hinduism?
We're bad marketers, dude. Hinduism, we're so bad at marketing. We don't proselytize.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. It's like you don't convert to it. You can choose to be it, but you don't convert to it.
It's population maybe. Like there's enough Indian Hindus. I'm saying it.
Hindus. No, you're.
So like
there's a lot of Hindus.
There's a lot of them Hindus 2 billion Hindus over in India. So there's enough that you don't evangelize. You're like, there's enough of us doing this. Maybe that's what it is. We're good. We have plenty.
Yeah.
We don't need.
I feel like we could do a better job, man. I think I'm envious of kind of the community that some other religions get as a result of the way they market and hang out with each other.
What's the worst thing you could do? Because you said you're not the best one. So besides eating meat, what's the worst?
I mean, I think it's everything else, right? I think it's like
all the vices.
Yeah, it's like vices or like being violent, like things like that, or like really the bad ones, like it is in any
it's the
religion
same across everything. I feel like.
Though I will say I know a lot more Hindus who eat beef than I know Muslims who eat pork.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Hindus are softer on the beef thing than Muslims.
Yeah, it's very interesting, which is crazy because I have so many Muslim friends who like drink alcohol and like
weed and stuff.
Yeah, they'll like get high, they'll like hook up with people, but then they're like, bacon, yo, hell no. Like, I'm not going to hell. I'm like, what do you think you just did?
Yeah.
I was like, you think this outweighs everything you just did?
I think because it's a scale of offenses, and that pork, for some reason, for them is very high.
Yeah, it's top tier.
Top tier. It's like, for us, it's like, thou shalt not kill. Their pork's at the same level. Like, do not kill.
You think the Muslim pork is the equivalent of the Catholic kill?
Probably.
Yeah.
Because of Muslims I know, nobody falters that one.
Did you grow up like going to confession a lot?
Yeah.
I'm so jealous of confession.
Well,
because outside looking in, it feels like one of those things where you're just like, listen, go have fun. Say sorry later.
Yeah.
That might be the worst like bastardization of it, but it's like when I see Italians talking about confession, like, I'm sorry, Father, I was having a good time. I don't know what to tell you.
All right, go say 3 Hail Marys. You're good.
Yeah.
Do you have something? I'm not a priest, but since you're Hindu, do you want to confess? Do you need it in your life? Like, what's going on, man? You're all right?
I in and out last week.
I'm fine with that. I'm good with that, dude. Talk to your parents. I'm fine with that. That's cool. That's good. That's a good protein right there.
Yeah.
You know? I love talking religion though because again, it ties to this conversation we've been having about cultural, melting pot. Like we can all learn from one another. Like I love chatting with you about it because I don't know a lot about it. So why not ask you? Like the ignorance I have is just because I didn't grow up knowing it.
And that's what's so important. What's missing today is like questions of, hey, I don't know this. Can we talk about it?
Yeah.
And sometimes people be like, well, it's not my responsibility to teach you, which I'm like, I get that. But then like, don't be mad when that person doesn't know because they came to you and you can be like, here are your other resources or here's how you can learn. But for me, it's always been important to like, if you want to have that conversation, like, you should be able to ask these things. And I've definitely asked things where people are like, yo, that's offensive. But I was like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know until I ask you that that's the wrong thing to ask.
Do you have, but before I let you go, because I will, I know you have a show coming up, but the last thing I wanted to ask you was, the trajectory of becoming a comic. And we know there are famous comedians like you who grew up with families, traditional Indian families, who, you're supposed to be a doctor. There's a routine to the stereotypes of growing up Indian in America or even in India. When you shift to comedy, what was that movie Kumail did that was...
Big Sick?
Did you relate more than anything to that movie? Or is that how it was for you? Or like... Is that how it is?
Yeah, no, it's very much how it is. My parents were here last weekend, dude. And they were just like, no interest in going back to the tech world or doing any of it. I was like, no. I was like, I'm having fun. I'm doing this thing. But yeah, I think it's especially hard because, like I said, I wanted to do stand-up forever. Yeah. Right? But I was like, that first generation immigrant in me is like, I got to get the stability. I got to get the job. And I did all the things and like over like the like bare minimum to do it and then be like, all right, now I'm doing this. But from my parents' lens, it's like, dude, look at what you could do if you just didn't do comedy. They're
Yeah.
like, you are doing so well. Like, you went to a good school, had a good job, like got promoted. Like, what? Why not just keep doing that and earning good money? I was like, because that's like, I know it now.
Yeah.
Like, I know the
that
recipe to do that life.
Yeah.
But it's like, this life doesn't really have a cut and dry recipe.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a fun, different challenge and puzzle, and one that's so much more fulfilling. But yeah, man, it's a hard conversation I have with my family all the time.
Have they seen you do stand up, your parents?
They have.
And
They
like
liked it. They
Yeah.
liked it so much. But then they're also like, yeah, but like, what, how do you make a living in this? And I was like,
It's
well,
also, it's not A to B from, also culturally, like, it's an ignorance thing. Like, it's not normal, fathomable to think like you can make money and do well.
yeah.
It's not the track, right?
And there's more Indians now than there have ever been in entertainment.
Sure.
But there's still not a lot.
Yeah.
There's still like very few of us relative to where we are in the population.
And stand-up wise, there's only a handful that I can think of that
Yeah.
have made names in that space.
And there's a
Like-
lot on the like rise.
Yeah.
But you look at like who's making like a real living. It's like Aziz, Hassan, Nimesh, Kumail, Russell. Did I say Russell?
No, Russell Peters?
Yeah.
I forgot
No,
he's
the
Indian.
OG,
That's
the
right.
OG.
Yeah, he's the Indian.
He's like the
comic.
guy.
Yeah.
He's who all of us saw.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, we can do this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what brown comic is out there. If they're just like, oh, I didn't really do that. It's like, dude, he like walked before all of us to be able to set the
great.
stage.
He's
yeah.
so funny, dude. But that's what's fun about what we do, and I get self-righteous about comedy, but life is short. You should be doing what you want to be doing and what you're good at, and like it'll all pan out, and it is. You know? It's
Yeah.
just, it's hard to convince parents from India, though, I think probably. But
It's not only hard to convince parents from it, dude, it's hard to convince a guy born in India that it's like, this is the right thing.
Do you conflict with your old self and your new one sometimes? Or like
All the time.
also full-time tech work is nice and comfortable, you know?
I was so comfortable. Like
Yeah.
I the way I think about finances and budgeting and everything now is so different than I
Yeah.
used 2 years ago because I was just so much more comfortable. But it also gave me the long leash to take certain comedy opportunities that I'm like, okay, right now this might not make financial sense, but I know it will pan out.
Yeah.
And the only way I would have had that is because of that tech background.
Bro, I love what you're doing though, man, because you this makes you stronger.
Thanks, man. I hope
entertainment
so.
and Beyond.
I hope so.
Yeah, dude, no, for sure. You're killing it. And you're super
Thank you,
funny.
dude.
Where can everybody check you out, see you live, socials? Make sure we plug that before you go.
Yeah, honestly, check out Instagram, Janesh Rahlan, JANESH RAHLAN. And website is just janeshrawlan.com. I put all my shows there, clips, send them to your friends. TikTok's the same. All of them are the same, but mostly like IG and website, I feel like is where most of my
Nice.
following is.
Go check him out, guys. He's really funny. Thank you for coming on to Hangman. Have a great show tonight.
Thank you for
I have a
having me.
feeling we're gonna be seeing you in the comedy scene a lot more. So I'm glad. Like I like
And you and I
doing
are going to
this.
be hanging out. We're
I
gonna be-
know, and I like that we do this now. Like this is so like we're just you're new to LA. I still feel new. It's just the beginning for us. And next
Yeah.
time, as we didn't get to a cigar, I'll make sure we smoke a cigar.
Hell yeah.
Either here or somewhere, man. I'm always smoking. Go see him live. He's super funny. Guys, thank you for watching. And don't forget, check out Barefoot Dreams. We got the company stuff. Janesh is actually going to take a pillow right now. I'm letting him take one because I said he could. And he's going to go sneak it under his wife's head awkwardly tonight after a show
Oh,
when
yeah.
she's sleeping. And she's going to be like, there's a predator in my house. And then they're going to be like, oh, maybe
She's
no, it's
like, but
me.
it feels so soft.
But it's so soft. Maybe I'll stay. Which is exactly what they wanted me to talk about when promoting their products. Make sure you check them out. I'm really so grateful they're a part of this season. Everything is so comfy. Also, I just want to mention they have so many cool things with Disney, Barbie, Star Wars. I love it. They have like integrated other brands with their stuff. But besides that, candles, blankets, all things in between. Cozy chic fabric. Don't forget, put a pop-up 15 into the promo code at barefootdreams.com for 15% off your first purchase. I will see you next week. Janesh, bye, man.
See you,
Bye,
man.
everybody.